Hello, and welcome to the South Coast Artists Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. The South Coast Artists Index podcast is brought to you in part by Heavenly Spirits, who invites you to celebrate the art of life and creative communities everywhere.
Hi, this is Ron Fortier with yet another episode of the In Focus podcast brought to you by the Artist Index. And we have a young gentleman that I've never met in person. So this is going to be interesting. But we do have one thing in common, and you'll find out what that is after he introduces himself and spells his name.
And how are we doing? My name is Trajic Montalvo, and that is spelled Trajic. And Montalvo is Montalvo.
Excellent. Thank you. And what is that one thing in common? I went to the U. That's where I got my master's degree in fine arts, University of Miami. And you were born there, right?
Correct. Born in Miami, Florida. I ended up living a good part of my childhood there. I was there till about maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Your family, are they of Cuban extraction or from other parts south?
Well, my father,
obviously.
Yeah, my father's naturally from Puerto Rico, the island, okay. And my mother is actually from Guatemala. She's she's not from America.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because when I was going to school there, I really had to rush up on my Spanish again because I grew, part of my life was on Columbus Avenue and on the west side in New York City. And it was really interesting because the dialects are, especially with the Cuban dialects, it's just such a small island. They must have 7 dialects at least. And one of them is like so incredibly crazy, like Portuguese that, I really had to tweak my ears to hear about it. What years were you down there? Well, let's put it this way: was South Beach a thing?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm from South Miami.
Yeah. I lived on Southwest 44th, right off of Ludlam Road. So
yeah, and like as I did mention, I was sort of young. I ended up leaving around 4 or 5 years old, but I always went back every chance I had.
Yeah. Puerto Rico is a beautiful place as well. We were out in Caguas a couple of years ago, and it's a really interesting culture. And a friend that we made while we were there said, "You want to drive?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And he's looking at me like, "Are you crazy? Puerto Ricans? You ever drive with a bunch of Puerto Ricans?" And I said, "It doesn't matter. I mean, I'll give it a shot." So we drove around. He's like, "Yeah, it's like you lived here all your life." It's like, well, you got to be crazy to know crazy, right? So tell us all about, okay, so you left Miami around 5 years old. I ask everybody, when did you get bit by the bug? That thing, that moment. And everybody has a different story, but you can put it into several similar categories. Like they got exposed to something that they really had no idea they had an interest in, and all of a sudden it's like, damn, this is what I want to do. So what's your story?
I would definitely say it was in what I like to call my home in the East Coast here in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It was my youth years. I was a freshly 13-year-old boy on the scene. I didn't really have too many male role models in my life at that moment. So I wasn't necessarily in the best environments, but the environments I were around they brought my ears and my eyes to things in the music and in the arts entertainment that I wasn't exposed to at such a young age. And I saw graffiti. I saw guys freestyling on the corner with no beats. It was really something, it was so raw, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And I fell in love with music around 13 years old.
Wow. Now, did you get involved with any of the youth groups, the Third Eye, and I think there was one other organization before.
I did get involved with one, but that was later on. After after that, I was probably around 16 or 17 when I came across an organization called Brick by Brick, and they take on a lot of youth and they help them basically bring their art to life, whether it be graphic designing, whether it be audio, whether it be visual, anything under that belt. They kind of just helped for free. It was a nonprofit organization. So to me, I found that amazing about, them, that they would do that for the community. And I definitely tip my hat off to them. I wish I would have found them a lot younger. But when I did find them, I was grateful to be a help. I was a student, but as well as a teacher trying to help anything I've learned.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I always bring this up one way or the other, almost always on these podcasts. For the longest time, I've been saying that there's a huge gap in the educational system in this city. Not just, not New Bedford specifically, but everywhere. Because we have what they call the comprehensive school. Some people call it the normal school, the high school, the old high school. And then we have the vocational school. So when you get out of eighth grade, middle school, which used to be 7th and 8th grade, used to be junior high school. Now you get a choice. Are you going to go to New Bedford High, or are you going to go to New Bedford Regional Vocational Technical High School? I would hate to answer that phone. But anyway, there's nothing in the middle. And I really think we need a school of visual and performing arts. What do you think about that?
I think that is amazing. And if I had the option when I was in school, that's exactly where I would be. That's where I would recommend a lot of the people that I was working with in the arts and in the music with. I think that's a beautiful idea. I mean, I did in high school, I did an attempt to go to vocational high school. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. I did go to New Bedford High School. Not saying, either or is, a better school or not, but just saying if I did have that third option, I'm more than certain that's exactly what my choice would have been.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about when you're of a certain age, it's two things. One is exposure. What have you been exposed to? Like as a kid, what kind of music did you hear in your household? Was it traditional Puerto Rican music and South American music, or was it just popular music, American popular music?
Oh, a lot of traditional, a lot of Central American music, salsa, merengue, a lot of bachata, stuff like that. From my mother's end. Now, from my father's end, he was very much I would say an old blues type of guy. He liked the jazz. He liked the things like that. So that's a mixture of the both. Just had me fascinated with music. So by the time I got introduced to R&B and rap and, even techno, to me, it was all amazing. It was all beautiful.
Yeah. It's, I'm just thinking now, because my mother was a club singer. She sang fado, Portuguese traditional music. She also did American standards, with jazz groups. That I was exposed to a lot of music, yet that's not something I ended up doing. I ended up going to the visual arts. But, that's the exposure. And then the other thing is the experience. When was your first experience with music? In other words, where somebody let you mess with a keyboard or sit at a drum set or any of those things?
It was about the age where I fell in love with music. I was about 13 and I was in a basement with a bunch of my friends. And we found an old microphone laying around, and there was a PC, one of the larger, bulkier computers back then in the basement. We turned it on, and we connected it, and we figured out, hey, we can download a digital program, to record ourselves on the microphone. And we started doing so over beats that we found that the songs that we already knew and we already liked, just kind of for fun. And it slowly just started becoming more and more the more we did it.
Wow. And did you ever have that talk with an adult? So what are you going to do to make a living?
Yes. Me personally, I've gotten the question my whole life. And every time I tell them that I'm going to be an artist, I get this look that I feel is almost discouraging, I guess. But at the same time, I take it as a challenge. I've always kind of been like that. I'm not scared to take on a challenge, regardless if I'm going to fail at it or not.
Yeah, it's really a dedication. And, a couple of weeks back, they had the press conference for the announcement of the art grants. New Bedford Creative had 80 grant recipients, and people were jammed into one of the rooms on the third floor of the library, New Bedford Free Public Library. And I said to myself, wow, that's just the people who won the grants or a grant. That's just like one segment of this creative population. This is unbelievable because, I've never seen this many creatives, visual, performing, literary, ever. And I think we got to give a lot of credit to the mayor, who took a lot of chances. And, people weren't too happy with what he was doing with some of the government money. But like he said, he put it into the creative community, and that money's still working out there. It's not like an end game kind of a thing where, you build something, poof, it's done,
Yeah, I agree 110. I mean, because of those grants, I mean, I'm very grateful. Because of those grants, a lot of doors are being opened. A lot of different expressions of art are being succeeded. They're being seen through. There's a lot of things that as artists we want to create, we want to make, we want to bring to life, but the opportunity or the equipment that we require to do such things sometimes aren't as easy as the ideas that we come up with. So to get the opportunity to do those things, I mean, it's some of our dreams. It's something we did as kids, sitting there like, oh, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. Well, these things help you get those things done, so you don't have to wish anymore. You could just do them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, your voice, as they say, what is it that drives your voice? Is it rage? Is it wonder? Is it, in Spanish, orgullo? Pride? What is
I would say with me, it's growth. I at this point in my life and the age I'm at, it's at growth. I feel like I want to learn as much as I can, and I'm not shy on getting criticism, and I just want to keep being better at performing, at writing my lyrics, at visually bringing my music videos together, whatever it is, whatever role I'm playing, whether I'm the director, whether I'm the producer, the engineer, I want to continue to be better.
Now, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 31 years old.
Okay, you're 31. So you started off at 13. How many advances, how many changes have you seen just in what you do? Now, I'm a painter. I mean, we've been painting the same way for like over 500 years. Pretty much the same. Easel, paint, brush, canvas, that kind of thing. But with your generation, in your genre, there's been changes, obviously.
Oh, of course. Yes. I think over time, it went from when I was 13, 14, maybe even 15 years old to just showing people the raw lyrical talent in the genre that I make: hip hop, rap, dembow, reggaeton. It's very much just, showing what words and how you can formulate them together and make a story to bring something to life. And it slowly started becoming more than that. Now it became making visualizers for them, music videos, performances. As the ages went by, so did my performance.
Oh, you broke up a little bit. You got a wobbly connection there.
Very sorry about that. Am I coming clear?
Yeah. Now you are.
Yep. And the changes went from just, rapping in front of a camera or singing in front of a camera to now recording it on a record. And now from recording it onto a record to doing a music video to it. To now where I'm now making animation music videos to my own music.
Okay. And God, sounds really kind of old-fashioned, some of these questions. But so what's your message?
My message overall is to be unique, to be yourself, individuality. Too many people are following the trends. Too many people want to be like the next person. And I feel like you don't have to do so to express yourself or to, I guess, be successful in the trait that you're pursuing. I feel being yourself, being unique can also be your advantage.
Yeah, being same old. I mean, that was basically Jean-Michel Basquiat when he was running the streets. The SOSO, that he used to put on his paintings about the same old, and he was just there to sort of break things up and make things his own. And without knowing, the outcome, went on to fame, which unfortunately he couldn't handle. Plus, he had a lot of people manipulating him. So, what is it about? Is there? Do you want to be famous?
I feel fame comes along with, your talent. The more talented you are, the more attention you're going to draw, the more famous, especially in the generation we live in today. A lot of things are based on being, famous, being a influencer, your face kind of being everywhere, whether it be TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I don't mind it. Now, I don't necessarily need it. If fame was to be eliminated from the equation, I don't think it would hurt me. I don't think that I would stop making art. I don't think I would stop being an artist. I think I would continue so and probably have even a little less stress, because I feel being famous adds a little more stress on top of anything.
Okay. So let me ask you, can you make a living and not be famous?
Yes. Now, the type of living you would like to live is up to you. Now, me personally, I feel I can definitely make a living without being famous, but the things and the accomplishments that I have been doing and pursuing to do are going to inevitably, bring me some type of fame or recognition, or as the younger crowd would say, clout or motion. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm kind of stuck in the middle with it, and not that I'm against it at all, because who would be? I like being recognized. I like when people see me at the gas stations and call me by my artist name, or see me at a McDonald's and stop me and my family to say hi. Like, it's a good feeling, because I feel, I'm making those people happy, but at the same time, if it was not being seen that I was making those people happy, it would not stop me.
Okay. Yeah. And do you ever worry that fame, if it came to you, might change you?
I do, in a sense, just because, like I did mention earlier, fame and finances, they come hand in hand as well. And when people get a certain amount of finance, their life is inevitably going to change, whether it's where they live, the stores they shop at, the clothes they wear. Now, the change I'm not scared of, as long as it's positivity. Any positive change I'm welcoming. Any negative change that might hurt me or anyone I love, then yes, I fear of that. And I would try my hardest to make that not possible.
Now, how many children do you have? I know you do have a couple.
Correct. I have 2 children. I have a 9-year-old and then I have a newborn.
Wow. My grandchildren are like 7 years apart. So, man, I know what you're up against.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's like almost like 2 generations in between, if you look at graduating classes that way, you know what I mean? How does the 9-year-old, what's the 9-year-old's opinion or expressions of what it is that he knows or thinks you do, what you do?
I'm very honest with my 9-year-old. I like to be, I like to let him even see the background of all the work that goes into, being an artist, just because I have this saying that I go by, and he very much knows it, that people see the shine and they don't see the grind. And I like for him to see the grind as well as the shine, because people that see the shine, they assume that I'm always happy, or I'm always, partying or in a good mood or living the life and diamonds around my neck and money in my pocket. But he knows better. He knows a lot better. And he knows there's also props, and there's, effects, and there's, stories. He knows a lot about all that entertainment. So to him, he does not always agree with a lot of my art either. I will even mention that. And that's him being honest. And I love him to be honest with me back. And he will. He'll tell me, hey, Daddy, I feel like you swore a little bit too much on this song. And I'll tell him, and I'll be like, hey, bud, I'm very sorry. You don't like that song. Daddy was just kind of angry when I made this song, but I expressed it in that manner. And,
wow,
he
cool.
he won't be angry with me about it, but he'll let me know, like, hey, that's not one of my favorites.
So you have some really good open communication with him.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Wow, that's something to be thankful for. That's for sure. In your heart of hearts, I mean, have you seen any leanings in him towards following you, either music or visual performing, literary arts?
In
Is there
bits
that?
and ways,
Yeah.
yes, in little bits and ways. He made a song one time in front of me, and purely out of just wanting to do it, and I found it kind of humorous. I was like, "Hey, bud, you don't have to make a song if you don't want to be a musician." And he was just like, "No, I want to because I can do it. I see you do it, and I know how to do it." I said,
Mhm.
"Okay," so I let him do it, and that was the only time he really made music. But then I also see him drawing a lot more now. He'll see me drawing and doing the digital art. He'll come with his notepad. He'll sit down next to me. He'll ask me how to draw a pumpkin, how to draw an apple. He'll go on from there. He's very much into video games,
Mhm.
the digital aspect of it. He always wants to create video games and create board games. So I think as a creative mind, he will follow in my footsteps, and that's a personal choice because I've never pushed it towards him. I've never told him, "Hey, be like me, and this is what you should be doing." And no, never. I would never want to put that pressure on him. And also because I know that the stress and I guess I don't want to say negativity, but some of the stuff that comes with it that isn't necessarily gravy. It isn't, sunshine and roses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's the rejection, and then there's times where there's absolutely no validation. People don't pay attention. They don't care. You're invisible.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it comes with the territory. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I've showed him, he sees the comment sections on YouTube and stuff. And he's 9 years old. He reads them and Dad, why did this person, say this about you? Why is he being so mean? And, I got to explain to him like, hey, bud, everyone's got an opinion, just like ears and eyes. And, everybody's got opinions, but you know what I mean? And they're going to state their opinion. And why don't you say something back? Oh, because, I'm not going to feed into negativity. If I feed into negativity, then I'm no better than that person.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I always used to tell my grandkids it's like the monkey on a stick. I don't even know if they still sell those things anymore. You could get them at these fairs, and it really was a monkey on a stick, and it had the joints were like tied with string, and it had a string, a pole, and then you pulled onto that string, and the monkey would flap up and down, and it's
Oh,
like
yes. I know what you're speaking of.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's like people pulling your tail or pulling your string or it's just getting you to react because they're trying to find that soft spot just to get you,
Riled
spun
up.
up. Yeah, yeah. And they won. They won. There's nothing more infuriating to a jerk than you just totally ignoring him.
Exactly. And that's very true. And when I say that to him, I know it sounds cliche. And I tell him all the time, like, I know it doesn't sound like the cool thing to do, but internally, it's the thing that's going to keep me happy. And that's what I'm worried about is my happiness.
Yeah. Do you see yourself staying in the South Coast?
Yeah, for a couple more years at least. I'm loving it. I feel that I'm seeing it in a different aspect now. When I was younger in my youth, I didn't appreciate it as much. And now that I'm older and I get to go to certain, events and places and see certain things and have the interest for it now too, because back then I feel I didn't have, like I said, my company, my environment wasn't necessarily the best. I've gone through a lot of transitions, and I'm very much proud of who I am today. I'm not the best. I'm not a saint. I'm not a hero or anything, but I'm definitely a lot better than I used to be, and I'll continue to keep trying to be.
Yeah. Well, just going back a few years, I mean, you talk about trying to stay away from negativity. It was really tough. I mean, this was one negative town. I mean, people were just so down on themselves, down on the where they lived, down on their neighborhoods. They were just down on. I mean, you could feel it when you came down 140 and you came into the city. You could feel that cloud.
Yeah.
And now it seems like it's totally different.
I love the changes happening. I mean, I feel like if I was the youth growing up in this time and age, I'd take advantage of a lot of the things that are now happening and opening and being available to them. I didn't necessarily have it at that age, so I mean, it wasn't available for our in my reach. But now that it is, and I have an opportunity to bring it to their attention, I do so too. Like today, there was a poetry reading in New Bedford, and I was trying to promote it to a lot of my fan base and to a lot of the people on my social media. Knowing that I couldn't go because I was going to be doing the interview, but still just because that's a positive environment to be around. And it's a great opportunity for artists and other entertainers and musicians to get to know each other and to break down that barrier that I feel sometimes as artists, we'll have these walls up and we don't allow other artists to, you know, critique or to be a part of what we want to create. And we should do that a lot more. We never know what'll come of it.
Yeah, there's a lot more collaboration than I've ever seen before. And by the way, is this the slam that was with Hendrick, William Kennedy? Those are the only two guys for some reason. I remember there was four
Correct.
people all together, right? Who
Correct.
did the graphics? The graphics were outstanding.
Oh, I know. I was watching that as well too. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I did something like this. But no, I don't remember who did it, but I know it was well put together.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a professional job. I mean, it looked like something out of New York or a bigger city. Not to say that can't happen here, but it was beyond the normal stuff that you see. You know.
Oh, and I very much feel it is happening. I feel like it very much is happening, and especially if this train gets into order, like they've been saying for a while now. I mean, I feel that especially in New Bedford, this music and the art scene is now. Like I said, I just wish it was like this a few years back. But even though it is like this now, I'm going to take advantage full on, and I'm just welcoming with open arms all artists and musicians to just whether it be a side project, whether it be a commercial, whether it be for clothing, because I also do clothing. I do a clothing brand. I have a couple of different outlets.
That's excellent. I mean, you really got a lot of, the old fashioned saying, a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
You keep things going. And another thing too is the city's become far more international. And what I mean by that is, like when I grew up, I mean, we had the Polish, the French Canadians, the Portuguese, and then of course you had the Yankees. Those are the major groups, and everybody stuck to their own little corners, their own little neighborhoods. Now it's so different, and it's so, cool that you can go to a Nicaraguan restaurant, you can go to a Puerto Rican restaurant, you can go to a Portuguese restaurant. There's this overlap. I mean, and it's really fantastic because it is kind of like living in a big city in a small city. In other words, you got a lot of the big city vibe, but you don't have any of the big city hassles.
Yes.
Of course, parking is always a hassle, right? That's what I see. And then and then the age groups of the artists in this town go from kids in their teens all the way on up to people my age and beyond that have been around for years.
I've met them all different ages, everything, and more in the last couple of years than ever. And I feel like I want to keep going and keep meeting them because every single one of them bring a different sound, a different view, a different picture to the plate, and it's a good mixture. I feel like bigger cities and places like LA and New York and stuff like that, they're big enough where there's enough people in them that when they do collaborate, they can do stuff like that. I feel like our areas are as big as them, where we should be taking advantage of being elbow to elbow with other artists and stuff and working with each other. We could create something, a wave that will be recognized like those bigger cities.
Yeah. I'm thinking, believe it or not, when I was at the University of Miami between 75 and 77, they were almost culturally starved, if you can believe that, because Florida's a peninsula. They're in South Florida. They're almost at the bottom of the peninsula.
Okay,
it's not too far to get to Homestead, and then from Homestead you're on a road to Key West. And they were like importing their culture, which is kind of weird. South American art was like a very hot thing. They were importing it, and then but they had this thriving Cuban community there, and it took them a while to find themselves. If that sounds crazy, that you look at Miami and go, "What do you mean?" When I asked you about South Beach was Skid Row. I mean, you wouldn't want to be caught dead there, as they used to say.
Yep.
People are like, "Oh, no way!" It's always been like, "No."
Yeah.
It really sucked being there. It was a dangerous place to be. Everything was falling down. And then a bunch of these people got together and they brought it back and to be what it is now. Have you seen in the time you've been here? What changes have you seen that are important to you?
I see a lot of small businesses rising up, and to me, that is that having a mother that came from Central America and had to get her green card and work her way from the ground up, it brings me a feeling of home, and seeing that, walking down the street and seeing a, Mexican restaurant open up or an Italian restaurant open up, a new pizzeria. And I walk in and they're like, hey, we're a mom and pop place. We just opened up. And they give me a flyer or a business card, and I put it right on my refrigerator. I pass it along because places like Walmart, Walgreens, and all these places, they're all over the place. You know what I mean? No one needs to really know about those places. They got all the exposure they need. So these small businesses around here, I encourage it, and it brings a smile to my face. Truly, it does.
Yeah, I'm just hoping. My wife works in the Howland place, and from the parking lot, you can see Rivet Street. You can see the park that they just redid the whole park. I think it was Ashley Park, and I'm looking at it. It's like it looks like a little European city. But even though one or two businesses have come in, and there have been some businesses that have been, hanging on forever, I would really love to see that place, fill up with small businesses. You're right. These national chains, basically, they're like big vacuums. They just suck all the money out of town.
That's true.
The employees that they have, they don't pay them a heck of a lot. They're not full time, so they're not really doing a lot of good. For the money doesn't stay in town. It doesn't circulate in town. Like that pizza guy, it buys some of his stuff from another mom and pop that that sells cheese and sauces, and that's the kind of economy that you want. Federal Hill and Providence. There's all kinds of stories, good and bad, about Federal Hill. But one of the agreements they had there is, you have a business on Federal Hill, you do business with other people on Federal Hill.
Yes.
And that's important. I mean, I lived in Portugal for about a year, and one of the great things about having mom and pop businesses is that you feel good going in and supporting them. They're local. The people are doing their best to stay in business, and you wonder, in 20, 30 years from now, will they still be here? And will they be something that somebody will look back on and go, oh, you remember Celia's? Talk about, good food. Celia's on Kenton Street. Wow. I mean, that place opened up, I think, just before the pandemic. And just when you think they would get torpedoed, I think they actually went up in sales. And there's more of those places opening up, which is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. And they're doing a lot more, too. Celia is now, they are doing performances, I think, as well, too.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken, I heard that they're allowing performances at their establishment because they're open later now than usual.
Wow. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And that's another thing. I mean, everywhere you go, it used to be the old song, when my mother would always say, when somebody's complaining, they're singing their song, But, there's nothing to do around here. The problem now is there's too much to do, and it's hard to choose, and it's hard to be everywhere all at the same time,
Exactly. Yes, definitely. Like if I could have split myself in two, I would have been at two places right now.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm sure they taped it, which is
yes, definitely
is important for a lot of reasons. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the future for you. What do you see? What do you hope? What do you wish for? Let's take it from there.
I want to continue progressing the way that I am, but I also want to progress at a faster speed if possible. Who wouldn't want to, idealistically? But I have a song dropping actually Friday with a known musician, Joel Santana. And it's an investment that I had put down to get this song cleared, contracts and all, to distribute and such. And as I mentioned, he is a well-known artist. So I'm hoping, as well as the promotion and the team I have behind me that's been pushing a lot of my work and my content mixed together, it's going to bring me to another level of exposure, I guess. And I have a animated music video for it as well. It's something a lot of people have been catching wind of that I've been doing. And it's not the easiest thing in the world, making cartoons. It is tedious, and to anyone who doesn't know, obviously, but to the people that do know, they know, you know what I mean? And it's like, I have so much going on my plate. I have now I'm creating my own visual team for music videos, commercials, things like that. And I want to continue to keep doing these type of things. My quality, I want to keep upping it. I want to keep, bringing it to new heights. As far as what I would like to do, because those are things that I am doing. But what I would like to do is I would like to continue to work with other artists from different areas, from my area, from, all over the world. I know I've made a song with someone in Cuba last year it was. And even though, it was, kind of random, it was still something beautiful when we came together and got to doing it, mixing that Cuban flavor with the American Spanish flavor as well, because whether I don't know if you know this, but I feel like us, especially us Hispanic people, if you're born on islands and born here in America, it's almost like you get two separate types of Spanish culture. Where on the island, you'll get bits and pieces of the culture from the island here in America. But when you go back home and you go to those islands and stuff, you see there's a lot more to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I felt oddly at home in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's very homey.
I don't know if it's because, like I said, when we lived on Columbus Avenue, that was it was mostly Puerto Rican. It was mostly Afro-Caribbean people in that neighborhood. But there was just something very, very familiar to the place, and you're caught by something when you say to yourself, "I want to come back." You haven't even been there an hour. You already want to come back. Yeah. It's like you're making a bookmark in your head.
But that is also another thing I would like to do is travel. Is travel and see the world. And to bring it back to another question you brought earlier, I mean, yes, I would like to live out here in New England for a good amount of time. Let my boys experience some of the things that I did. And when the time is right, then I want to, as well as traveling, I want to live in different places of the world, different, countries, and experience their culture and their arts and their music.
Yeah, believe me, I had the opportunity to do it. I wish I could have done it when I was younger. I've told my grandson, if you can do it now. Don't wait. Don't, It's funny how we're such in a rush to get to tomorrow, to that goal that we set, that we totally gloss over today. And sometimes you just have to surrender. You just got to go for it. Nothing stupid, not put yourself, in jeopardy, like, financially or whatever, but there's just so much to do. And those experiences you'll have for the rest of your life. If you need a lawyer, by the way, a copyright lawyer, I got a guy for you. He's won 3 gold records. He primarily deals in the music industry. So,
most definitely. Definitely. That would be a big help.
Steve Berger. In fact, if you go onto our website and you just do the search for Steve Berger, you can hear his podcast.
Excellent. Yes, that's great.
Because so many people they think they can either they're not smart enough. I don't want to say smart enough. They don't know about you've got to deal within certain laws, and regulations like copyrights. And then they end up getting screwed, and then it's a big mess, and that makes it miserable. You might as well do it right from the start.
Oh yeah, the lack of knowledge on a lot of that stuff is incredible. I do songs sometimes with people, and they don't even have LLCs, business certificates. They don't have their name copywritten, and I'm just looking at them like, you realize these songs will be distributed, right? And they're like, oh, they don't even care that much for it either. They're just like, oh no, it's fine. I do this for fun. And I'm like, all right, I get that you do it for fun, but when something's getting distributed, you rightfully are owed a piece of that. If your art is on it, your words, your anything,
Well, don't forget, what was it, Napster? Going way back, when they had the lawsuits, with the streaming and the torrents and all that other stuff. Then there was a bunch of people who just started dropping stuff and saying, oh, I don't care. It's okay. It's fine. Well, that's great if you got like a whole bucket of money that you're sitting on, but somebody has every right to just come along, grab that thing, reproduce it, and make $1 bazillion out of it, and they don't have to give you a dime. So it does get complicated, that's for sure. And that's why I brought up Steve Berger, So we're talking about your future. What do you see? It's a double-edged question. What do you see, based on your experiences up to this point in time now, looking forward, what do you see? How do you see New Bedford in 10 years? Or South Coast?
On the road that it's at now, I see it progressing. I see it still just, the streets changing. Because I even see that streets are changing. They're looking a lot cleaner. They're looking a lot better. The stores, the attention even that the cities are drawing. Because as you heard on the drive here, I was driving over here. So obviously I was coming from Fall River, and even driving from that area on all the way over here, I was noticing those things. And I was like, wow, getting kind of hungry, driving by all these restaurants, and then, seeing the little clothing stores and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, I should come by here tomorrow and, pop in on them and see if there's anything I can do to help them out, take some pictures of their establishment, post it on social media. As long as we keep this mentality, all of us as a whole, and keep doing things like this, I feel no doubt in my mind that all South Coast is going to be in a way better position than they were probably even expecting to be in.
Yeah. I mean, I lived on the continent, in Portugal, in Figueira da Foz, which was equidistant between Porto on the north and Lisbon on the south. And the community vibe is so hard to describe. I mean, there are people who are grumpy, there are people who are nasty, there are people, but for the most part, everybody was pulling for everybody. I saw this older person trip and fall in the middle of an intersection. And like I like to tell people, not one person ran up to go help them. 6 people ran up to go. And it was amazing. Like, okay, did you call, their version of 911? Do you know who this person is? Yeah, well, I think she lives in the corner there. I think I know her son. I mean, it was absolutely amazing to see that kind of thing happening, And I was just to say, you could be, completely naked with $50 bills or $100 bills taped to your body, dead drunk in the middle of the street. And they would pull all the money off you, put it in an envelope, wrap a blanket around you, and bring you to your house. And give you the envelope. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. It's so. Well, the vibe is there. Like when something bad does happen, everybody's like, "What? That doesn't happen here. That just doesn't happen."
Concern.
Yeah. So the other part of the double-edged sword is, so I ask you what you see, in New Bedford, in the South Coast, and 10 years up the line. So we're more international, we're more together, we're more homogenized. We don't have all the Puerto Ricans stay with Puerto Ricans, all the Guatemalans. I mean, which used to be the way things were, everybody stuck to their own community, and you didn't cross into this neighborhood. It was all a bunch of crazy, stupid stuff. Let me ask you now about the arts specifically. How much further can we go? How much more can this area support and encourage people in the arts?
Oh, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. It's all on us as humans, even just as humans, how much we're willing to put in, how much we're willing to be open to.
All right. Now, let me ask you another question. Things are crazy in the world. They've always been crazy. There's nothing new, right? We've got Ukraine. We've got Gaza, Israel. It should be more correctly Hamas, Hezbollah, Israel. And then, we have our own problems here, that whole thing about the migration. And that's a problem that has never been fixed, living in Miami, there's an entire community that these people all ran away from Cuba because of what was going on there. But that's a whole other story. My point is, social injustice. Uh, do you how do you feel that the artists, the creative community, can band together at some point and make their feelings known about what's going on in the world in a peaceful, positive, you know, productive way?
Yes, I think so. Of course. Of course. I feel like that should be the only way. I mean, we create, we make things. So why can't we bring things like our feelings to life? You know what I mean? And that's what I mean by visuals, visualizers. And I'm very strong on those because we live in a day and age where people need to be sucked in by their attention. Their attention span is kind of small. They have to be sucked in right away. And if it's not a tragedy, if it's not, you know, Kim Kardashian doing something crazy, like people don't want to give it that time of day. You know, they kind of just whatever it. But if we can grab that attention, grasp that attention off the first couple seconds about the point that we're trying to make, then we got them. Whatever it be, whatever topic I want to make on whatever song I make sure my 4 or 5 seconds in the beginning of my music video sucks the viewer in. So like that, they get to hear the message of what I want to say. They understand it. And when they visually see it, they feel it in their heart for some reason. You know, so if we can bring how we're feeling to life and expose it in a positive manner, yes, of course, that's very much possible. Whether it be a painting, whether it be a shirt that you created that signifies what you're trying to say, and everyone starts wearing it and making a movement out of it, we can find a way to do this without any harm or negativity.
Excellent, excellent. Now, let me ask you, of everything you've done so far, what has been the greatest thing you've ever done?
Show my kids that there is a way to do the things that I want to do. Show them that I can do these things and then watch me do it. Hey, I want to make a music video where I'm standing on the world. And sure enough, I do it. And they look at me just how I envisioned me on top of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful feeling, isn't it?
It is. It is. There's no amount of money that could ever pay that when I see him look at me and tell me he can do something because I put that in him. I put that, and I'm going to put that on the newborn's heart too. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And then, you know, again, it's that exposure and that experience, which a lot of kids unfortunately don't get. If, you know, I ask this question a lot. It's kind of a corny question. If I gave you a magic wand, but it's only good for one wish, just one wish alone, right? What would you wish for?
I'd wish for a bigger audience to get the messages that I want to get out. I want to reach out to those people. I want to find that little boy in his room who was in the position that I was in and touch his soul and let him know that he can be a superstar. He can feel, even if he doesn't want to be a superstar, even if he just wants to feel great about himself, you can do that.
Wow. Okay. So what's the biggest venue that you've ever attended or performed at in the South Coast?
Biggest venue.
We're talking head count, you know?
Yep. I would definitely say, off the top of my head, it would have to be one of the Brick by Brick events that I did get to perform at. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a song that was that they had asked me to create with another artist about energy saving and, you know, recycling. And as cheesy as it sounded, because when I heard it, I was immediately like, this isn't something I feel strong about. But, you know, if it's my job, I like to be good at my job. So I did it. And when we went on stage to perform, oddly enough, it was at what park is it right here near the zoo in New Bedford?
That's Buttonwood.
Yeah, Buttonwood. It was at Buttonwood. Yeah. And obviously they had like a little festival and stuff going. So a lot of people started walking over, and head count, I can't say off the top of my head, but I knew that I saw a lot of people that day, and the feeling was a little intimidating. You know, performing a song like that as well.
So if you had the opportunity to produce, to be a producer in a venue that, well, you know, living over there in Figueira, they had something, I think it was called the Sunrise Festival. It was all techno pop. And there were 100,000 kids on that beach.
Oh my gosh.
Over 3 nights, 100,000 each night over 3 nights.
Oh, that's amazing.
There was no crowd control. There was no craziness. The only thing that I noticed in town was the litter, that they couldn't keep up with the trash barrels. And, over there they have guys, women, men who sweep the streets. It's a job, and it's not a thankless job. People say thank you. They keep the city clean, right? So it was hard when you got that many kids coming in, and you've got kids who are like independent. I mean, over there, the kids get independent real fast. They're probably like, 16 years old, and they're renting a room, with some friends, and there was no hassle, no cops, nothing. When they won the Euro Cup, between France and Portugal, I mean, it was like pandemonium. There was noise. It was,
I can imagine the feeling must have been incredible.
But it was an incredible, incredible thing. And I'm always wondering, if there was the possibility of having a venue where there were that many people. I mean, 100,000 is a lot to ask for, but even, 5,000-6,000 people, because it's just something about a big crowd, especially one that's completely zoned in. Everybody's like all together.
Oh yeah, I just performed this Friday that just passed in Fall River, and it wasn't the largest crowd. There was probably a maximum of like 30 people there. But regardless, the feeling of interaction alone, even with a small crowd like that, get your adrenaline up and going and your blood pumping. So imagine in front of, hundreds and thousands, the feeling can only get higher, and make you feel more of that feeling that makes you happy when you're performing. If there is in fact one of the things you love doing. I recently gained a new love for it. I didn't always like to do it when I started audio, recording my audio and stuff and performing it. I was very nervous. I wasn't too confident in my music. I had to grow confident in my music.
Yeah.
And now that I am probably at my most confident, my show on Friday was something to remember. Even the people there, I knew what they were thinking. I knew what they were feeling. Immediately, somebody else was supposed to perform. They got a little bit of cold feet, and I wanted to help out. So I jumped up and I said, "Hey, I'll perform." And they said, "Oh, hey, he wants to perform. Let him perform." So they were like, "Hey, you're not supposed to go on until later on tonight. You sure you want to go on?" I was like, "Yeah, you know what? If you guys need someone to fill the spot, why not? This is what I came here for." They were like, "All right." We started performing. Everybody was kind of quiet at first. Everybody's kind of feeling me out. They want to know if what I'm going to say is going to even be to their liking. And then as soon as the beat drops and I start rapping, I see 1 or 2 people bobbing their head. My confidence gets higher. I start walking into the crowd. A few more people start getting into it. Phones start getting pulled out. And, 2 minutes into my set, 3 minutes into my set, I'm going on to my second song. I'm sitting on the pool table. I'm jumping off of it. I'm dancing in front of everyone, and they're having a great time. And it wasn't a large crowd, but just the small crowd itself gave me such a good feeling. It reminded me why I do these things, for those people, for that good night. And from when I even left, I heard it was a great night for everybody. Everybody got home safe. Everything was good. Can't ask for much more.
Yeah, exactly. And, we're right back to that experience thing. It's all about the experience. It's all about the memories. And sometimes people take something out of a piece of work that you do that you weren't even aware of, and they really embrace the heck out of it. And they kind of signal to you that, hey, maybe I should pay attention a little bit more about this thing and push this a little bit more to see how much further I can get, as I develop and grow as an artist. Final thing. What is it you would like to tell people about you? And we'll wrap it up. This has been a great conversation.
Excellent. Yeah, I feel the same. If there's anything that I would like to get to everybody is to give it a search. Give it a search. And when you search up my name on whatever search bar you look up, if you give it a good try, I guarantee you'll find at least one thing that you'll like, because I'm so universal. I'm so diverse. And I feel sometimes rappers because I know I get labeled as a rapper, but I'm much more than that. But rappers get an image that they're all the same and they're aggressive and they're so on and so forth. Don't get it confused. I know how to get aggressive and when. There's a time and place for everything. But that is not just who I am. So just give it a shot. Give it a shot to find out who I am. Go type in Trajic Montalvo, Trajic Montalvo. And from music videos to songs to art to comic books to clothing, whatever you see, modeling, I do it all. I don't care what it is. If it's expression, I'm going to express. And I guarantee there's going to be some type of relation somewhere. You got to be able to relate in some aspect, because I do happy, I do sad, I do mad, I do it all. I do club songs, I do sad songs, I do story songs. I do different genres. I do reggaeton, tembo. I am diverse with bilingual languages. I do rap, hip hop. I can write songs for R&B singers. To me, it's more about knowing how to do all these things and being great at each one. So when you search it up, you'll even see the time span, how I started to where I'm at now.
Well, it's funny because for an up guy, a talented guy, but because, you've got Andy on the screen here and I totally forgot, with all this positivity and so on, where did Trajic come from?
Oh, yes. That came from that troubled youth that I mentioned a little bit earlier. I wasn't necessarily a modeled citizen. I was a little bit of a troublemaker at one point. And I don't say that humorous because it's funny. I just say it because I have a little chuckle in my voice, just because I look back at those things now. And I don't necessarily regret them because it made me who I am now. I had to learn the lessons. I had to learn to be who I am today. And like I said, I'm not perfect and I don't expect anyone to look at me like a role model of any sorts. But at all the same, I am, trying my best to be a good artist, a great father, a great man, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. I was thinking about, everybody makes mistakes, and there are times in our lives where we have a blindfold on and we just bump into the furniture until we figure out, hey, I got to pay attention to what's going on around me,
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And instead of waiting for the change, the old thing, be the change, right?
Exactly.
Well, Andy, Trajic Montalvo, thank you so much for being with us. This is Ron Fortier saying thanks for joining us. We've been talking to Andy Trajic Montalvo, and it's been an excellent conversation. We hope you stay tuned for the next episode. And just be kind to everybody out there, and especially be kind to yourself. Good night. Bye.
We'll see you next week for another episode of the South Coast Artist Index podcast. To learn more about the South Coast Artist Index, visit theartistindex.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.